Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast coming to you today for episode 178. At least I think it's 178, right? I don't think my count's messed up. Let me check my notes here. Start to do these live shows and all the numbers mesh together. Yes, episode 178 of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucks fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. We come to you today with a little bit of news. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have signed a new running back. Former Cincinnati Bengal Gio Bernard is in the red and pewter on a one-year deal. 29 years old, 8 years in the league, never been to the playoffs. And as of right now, he looks to be Tampa Bay's new third down back, replacing a guy like LaShawn McCoy. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Maybe the effects of the draft, what that means for the Buccaneers picking at 32. Like I said, we are live on YouTube, so shout out to all of our people in the live chat. Evan, what is up, my friend?
Not much. Not a ton. It was we didn't expect to be doing a show today, but here we are, and yeah, glad to be here. It's been a little slow. Like, I think Leonard Fournette re-signing was the last really bit of news, and I mean, yeah, it's been pretty slow. I mean, you've had some rumors about Antonio Brown, but not really any like substantial ones. But then this comes out as sort of left field. And it was actually a correction. Gio Bernard has been to the playoffs, but he's never won a playoff game. So
gotcha, my bad.
That was the whole, because he's on the Bengals. You know how that works.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so he's been in the playoffs, never won a playoff game. Hopefully that changes this season. But yeah, like I said, I was just sitting there on my phone, and I have tweet notifications on and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay. So I quick scrambled. I didn't have any sort of anything ready. I was like, crap. So quick scrambled, and yeah, it was a surprise. I figured it would be once they signed Fournette. I really didn't expect them to go out and sign another free agent running back. So I think that was the big surprise to me.
Now, the golden question at this point, which I'm sure we're going to get a lot, but what does this do about the Buccaneers and that coveted, that draft pick that they have at 32 here in just a little bit? We've talked a lot about the possibility of taking a running back if the right guy is there. Your Travis Etienne, anybody who falls to 32 that you don't expect them to be there. And obviously taking a running back at 32 would make a lot of sense, because as it stands right now with Bernard on a one-year deal, you've got Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette all through contract until next season, and then they're all free agents. And keeping all three of those guys is going to be a little bit hard. So if you want to plan for the future, or I guess even the short-term future of, the cap gymnastics that this team is going to have to play, drafting a running back obviously makes it something you don't have to worry about as much. But my question for you, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well, what does this mean for the pick at 32? Can we completely write off the list that the Bucs aren't going to take a running back, or is it still maybe possibly something that could happen if, the right guy is there? Because that was the whole situation in the first place, is if the right guy is there and ultimately falls to 32.
Yeah, I can't rule it out. I would not put in Sharpie. I wouldn't, cross off, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, forget that. I would, however, rule out probably a guy like Javonte Williams. I don't think they'll be in the market for a guy like him. I think the only reason they would draft a running back at 32 is if Travis Etienne or Najee Harris, more so Najee Harris, is there. Travis Etienne, I could maybe see them passing on him at this point, because he has a lot of a similar skill set to what they have already. But Najee Harris brings something that they don't really have. a combination of speed, power, and the ability to pass catch. So if Najee Harris is there, it wouldn't shock me one bit. But I'm not. This doesn't rule out them drafting a running back for that reason, like you said. They have one running back under contract for 2022, and that's Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah.
And you haven't really seen much of Keyshawn Vaughn, so you're not going into the 2022 season with Keyshawn Vaughn as your most experienced running back. So what are you going to do? Obviously, you're not bringing back all three. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, Gio Bernard. You're not going to bring back all three of them. I'm pretty confident that you're not likely to bring back all three next offseason. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I do think it makes it less likely that they draft a running back at 32. Like it definitely, it definitely makes it less likely because just there's a need, but at the same time, like that running back room now, there's 4 running backs. Are you going to cut Keyshawn Vaughn? Or are you going to put him on the practice squad? Like if you can put him on the practice squad, somebody's going to pick him up. So you're going to lose him for nothing, essentially.
Yeah. And I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but the value of that 3rd round pick that they ended up using on Keyshawn Vaughn, let's talk about him for a minute and the situation he finds himself in. You bring in Gio Bernard, that's just another veteran running back in this room that can kind of push him down a little bit further. So for a lot of the people who really expected Keyshawn Vaughn to get that fair shot to kind of show what he's worth, it seems like Bernard takes away a little bit of that opportunity. Do you think maybe he transitions to a role in special teams, or, where does he find himself with this latest sighting? And God forbid the Bucs take a running back at 32 and they're in a situation where they have to basically decide if they want to carry 5 running backs into the season or not, which they've done before. But, where does Keyshawn Vaughn find himself in the middle of all this?
Yeah, it's right now it's not looking too good for Keyshawn Vaughn's chances to get on the field this season. It just, you got Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. They're both better runners than Keyshawn Vaughn. And you have Gio Bernard, who's a better pass catcher right now. So I just don't know. Arians said, what did he say about like a breakout year or something?
Right, yeah.
I just don't know if they like him that much. If they really truly like him, why do this then? Like why bring Fournette back? Why sign 2 free agent running backs if you truly like what you've seen in Keyshawn Vaughn? If you like what you see in Keyshawn Vaughn, have Jones, have Vaughn, and draft a running back in like the 4th round and call it good. Let Fournette walk and don't sign Bernard. I think I think it's interesting because it sort of signals to me that, they like Vaughn, but I also think that they still believe he could be maybe a year or 2 away. So there was something from Ethan Ennis in the chat said, I'd say Najee at 32 or roll with the guys you have. Najee on a rookie deal plus a 5th-year option. He can run, catch, and pass block. Bruce Arians, I love a guy with all 3. So, he said David Johnson type. They're not the same player. They're not the same type of player, but just like what you said, he can sort of do a combination of all 3, and that 5th-year option is valuable. So, but I would, like I said, I think Najee Harris is the one guy that if he's there, I don't think the Bucs expect him to be there. I think at this point, maybe the Bucs got some intel that Najee Harris, he's not going to be there. But it's still, he would be the one guy, I think, if you were going to pick a running back that sort of opens up. And I think you could see them carry 5 running backs into a season. It's not common, right? But they, like you said, like I said earlier, they have done it before. It's not very common, but it's something that they've done before. I just don't know if they're in a position to do it. It all depends on what are the other position battles? Because if you're carrying 5 running backs, you're going to have to, do you go 2 quarterbacks instead of 3 like you normally have? Do you go 5 wide receivers instead of 6? Do you go 3 tight ends instead of 4? So those are the tough decisions you have to make. Willie Beeman,
$20 towards the Wendy's fund. Good evening, fellas, and shout out to all the soldiers in Bucs Nation. I like the move because Gio is going to be a solid pass catching back, which makes our offense much more deadly. I think the teams lost hope in Vaughn at the Chicago game. We've talked about basically the turning point for Keyshawn Vaughn, and we talked about the Chicago game, but even the chances that he got after that, his sample size is pretty small. And that's kind of the point that I try to defend, that his sample size is still pretty small, but what he did give Tampa Bay was not great football. And we have to be honest about that. So if you are Keyshawn Vaughn and you're the Bucs looking at that running back, look at what he's given you. The NFL is a what have you done for me lately kind of league. And lately, Keyshawn Vaughn put the Buccaneers in a lot of bad situations. And unfortunately, that's just the way that it is. But I do like Gio Bernard, and I like that they have, a running back that you can trust a little bit better in catching out of the backfield. Not to say that LaShawn McCoy wasn't that guy, but look at his sample size in Tampa Bay as well. He had, was it the Minnesota game that he had like 4 carries for 30-something yards?
McCoy?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the game that was the Fournette scratch game.
Right, that was the one game that he exploded, and we really didn't see him, catch a whole lot of passes out of the backfield or anything like that after that game. So that's kind of where that sits. And you look at Bernard as a McCoy replacement, he's definitely an improvement. And just like you said, Willie, it does add another dimension to this passing game. Thank you so much for your super chat, my friend. We do appreciate your support.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Willie. Really appreciate it. And Kevin says, I think the plan at 32 is to trade down. It could be, but you also have to have a partner. And, don't know. I mean, I think the Bucs are open to it. I don't know if they plan on doing it, because in a draft, you never know who's available.
Yeah.
So, could there be a guy there that you're not expecting to be there, and you're like, oh, I'm not trading out? Or is there a guy there that you think is going to be there, and you're like, oh, this team could want him, so maybe we could trade back with them, and then all of a sudden that guy's not there, so you're kind of screwed.
Right.
So I don't really know if they're planning on trading out. I think, like I said, they're open to anything. I think they're open to trading out, 5-6 picks. They're open to trading up, I think 5 to 6 picks. I wouldn't expect them to move up to 13, to grab somebody.
Right.
But, if somebody's sitting there at 25, 24, and they really want them, why not give, your 3rd round pick to move up and get that guy? If you really like him, why not do that?
Yeah.
It's not like you have a ton of needs, right? It's, but the big thing with Keyshawn Vaughn, and this is the last thing we'll really say about him before maybe moving on to, some other stuff, but Keyshawn Vaughn would be fine if the Bucs weren't trying to compete for another Super Bowl.
Right.
He just can't. You can't rely on that dude when you're trying to be a contender, because you haven't seen enough out of him. So what if you rely on him and he sucks again? Then you're I'm gonna use the word screwed again. You're you just literally Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn. And if Keyshawn Vaughn's bad, oh well. You have one running back that you basically can play. So that's why if the Bucs were still a 6-10, 7-9 football team, it'd be fine. Don't sign Fournette, don't sign Bernard. Don't sign a guy like Bernard, 29 years old. No, don't do that. Just give those carries to Vaughn. That would be fine if you were in a different situation. This team it needs more surefire bets than hopeful ones right now.
No, that's a really great point that you brought up. And frankly, I haven't heard about it. I haven't heard it talked about enough. We've talked a lot about how the Bucs are in a very different situation this season, not only with the draft, but just with everything going on and how they, plan to build this team for the season. Obviously, the winning window that we've talked about, even since before the Super Bowl victory, is very limited in itself. So it is not an atmosphere where you can, wait around for a player that might be good. We talked about how the NFL is a pretty unforgiving league. It is a what have you done lately for me league, but all of those are just amplified, when you are contending for a championship, and especially when you're the team coming off of that championship and looking to defend. So the timetable for a guy like Keyshawn Vaughn is going to be a little bit shorter. And of course, we know that the addition of Gio Bernard is not going to help his case whatsoever.
And also the leash in games is going to be shorter.
Oh, yeah.
He fumbled in the Chicago game. He didn't come back. He fumbled in the Washington game. He didn't come back. Yeah. So speaking of the Washington game, our buddy, is it Kyle? Is that how you spell that? Sorry,
that's Kyle.
Okay. Anyone else want a safety or a cornerback in the first round? Remember, all season, including the Washington football team playoff game, coverage was a struggle. Well, their coverage for the most part in during the season was fine.
I think that coverage during the the Washington game was part and due to Taylor Heineke just going out there and
if you look at the film, the dude played well.
Yeah, he did.
The dude just sometimes those guys get paid to play football too. Those guys get paid. So yeah, he played good. Like he played out of his mind that game. Sometimes he's got to give credit. And the Bucs were also missing Devin White that game. So and that's a big factor there.
Yeah. No, I did want to say really quickly before we really got into the rest of the stuff going on, we actually have a live show planned for tomorrow night as well.
Yes.
And we weren't even expecting to do the show today. So our live show tomorrow is basically us kicking off our official draft coverage. We've talked a lot about the pick at 32, but we'll kind of go into the later rounds and what the Bucs can do tomorrow night. But we're going to have Trevor Sikkema from the Draft Network here on the show. So excited about that, and just wanted to get the word out so you guys can stay tuned.
Right. Yeah. Excited to have Trevor on. We really weren't expecting to do a show today, but here we are. So, so back to the question about a safety or a corner. I would be shocked. Especially safety. I think corner would be more likely, but I still would be pretty surprised. But safety, I mean, they just drafted Winfield in the second. They drafted Mike Edwards in the third the year before. They still have Jordan Whitehead. I know Jordan Whitehead is scheduled to be a free agent, but like the secondary was really a strength. Like it really was. And then as far as cornerback, I mean, Carlton Davis is a free agent next year, but I don't think the Bucs plan on letting him go. And Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamel Dean are both free agents in 2 years, not next year. So that buys you a little bit more time. Some people are talking in the chat now. I know it's a long shot, but do you guys believe Caleb Fairley falls? The reason, this dude's probably a top 15 prospect, maybe even top 10. But the reason is he has a back issue, and that's really hurt him in his stock. So what if he's there? If he's there, maybe the Bucs do consider him, but the dude's too talented. He's not going to be around at 32. What do you guys think of Asante Samuel Jr. in the second round? He's not going to be there at 64. If you want a guy like that, you'll probably pick him at 32.
Our buddy Ethan had said, I would really love a young, athletic
trust me.
So what's up?
We've been saying this for 2 years now, so
I would really love a young, athletic third edge rusher to bring in to complement JPP and Shaq Barrett. Just imagine what Bowles could do with a, an Osai or maybe even a developmental guy. So let's talk about maybe some of the pass rushers they could target. I know we talked about that kid out of Miami before, and that seems like the best possible situation. I don't know so much about interior defensive line, but some edge rushers that you might have your eye on and could be a possibility for the Bucs at 32.
Well, it's, Jalen Phillips, I think, is the one. Now, it does come with the biggest risk because he's already, dealing with a lot of injuries and stuff. But I just think he's a top 10. If you're talking pure talent, he's just a top 10 talent. And, I see a name in the chat. Azeez Ojulari from Georgia is a good player, but I think he'll probably go before the pick. Jason Owe from Penn State is a name I'd watch out for. He could be that type of guy that's available at 32. He's a bit raw right now, but the beauty of it is that he doesn't need to play right now. He'll come in a little bit, but he's not going to be asked to be a starter. And that's what I think a lot of Bucs fans sort of aren't really considering because they haven't really been in this position ever. A lot of Bucs fans, when I bring up some names, are, oh, no, he's not ready to play. You don't need to be ready to play. All these guys, if you're drafting at 32, you're likely not getting a perfect prospect.
Yeah.
Like you're not getting a guy that, the Bucs got very lucky last year in the second round with Antoine Winfield, right? Because, Tristan Wirfs, you come in and expect him to start right away, and he did very well, but not everybody's a Tristan Wirfs.
You're not
30.
You can.
Listen, it definitely can happen.
Teams whiff in the draft every year, and great players fall. Chris Godwin was a mid-round guy. There's a lot of guys on this team that are great players that were mid-round guys. It happens every single year. But if you're looking at before the draft, you're not going to get a first-round prospect at 32. You could get a great player, but it really just kind of depends on how things shake out. So when you're looking at the way these guys are graded, you have to, take that into account.
Yeah, you're not going to. Exactly. You're not going to get that type of player. And in the second round, you're not going to get a second round quality player. In the third round, you're not going to get a third round quality player. So, and it's different this year. So, Let's see. I'd like to see a trade up for Quiddy Pay if he slips. Don't really have a lot of needs. Pay. I feel like he's better suited for a 4-3. Personally, but I mean, he's okay. I don't know if I'd move up for him, but I would consider it if he slipped to like 27 or so. Maybe you move up a little bit. Still prefer an edge rusher like Phillips or Osai, but I think Phillips ends up being a top 20 pick with his talent. Yeah.
Fresh
Joseph
Tequila came in
Osai.
with a good question that's kind of relevant to that defensive line. What are your thoughts on Anthony Nelson? We've talked a lot. I know we talked about him a lot this time last year because of the departure of Carl Nassib, but Anthony Nelson was kind of drafted to be, in a way, the replacement for Carl Nassib. And as we've seen, he really just isn't that guy. He doesn't hit home on pressures like a lot of those other defensive linemen do. But what are your thoughts on Nelly after all these seasons?
And he is what he is, I think, at this point. Yeah, he did have some injuries in his rookie year and then his second year. Didn't really get a whole lot of playing time, but I don't know how you can expect much from the pass rush side out of him.
Just because he's got those long arms, the big tall build,
Yeah. He seems to me like just a good run defender that's an outside linebacker. Just is what it is, kind of. Maybe you can put him inside on some downs, kick him inside to play against a guard where he may be a little bit faster.
Yeah.
We'll see. Let's see. Bulls, JPP, Shaq, and the coaching staff can make Away a superstar. Yeah, I mean, they definitely could. I think Away just needs, and a lot of guys in this class need that. Joseph Osai, a lot of guys like this need to be in the right situations. Gregory Rousseau is one of the biggest cases. I don't believe the Bucs should be picking Gregory Rousseau. But he's one of the biggest cases where he's a guy that to be successful, he's going to have to land in the perfect spot. And I think Away is very similar. And I think Tampa could be that spot for Away. Let's see. Cam Sample at 64 would be cool. I like Peyton Turner from Houston. Keep an eye on Peyton Turner. I think Pewter Report had him in his mock draft today. It's the first time I've really seen him linked to the Bucs, but I've liked him for the past month or so. I really started to dig into Peyton Turner. I really liked him. To be fair, some of these young guys could be hurting their development with the lack of typical offseason and preseason. Oh, yeah, of course, right? But you're hoping that there's more of an offseason and some of the preseason. Do you think Ryan Smith will resign? Austin, I got some news for you, pal. I'm sorry to tell you. He's a Charger, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ryan Smith actually signed with LA last week or the week before, but he has been off of the depth chart for a little while now. So sad to see him go, but hopefully the Bucs will find a way to replace that special team.
And there was also another free agent departure that Anthony Auclair signed with the Houston Texans.
So. Yes, he did. So now you've got
the starting tight end's gone. I guess it's just the tight end room is
Yeah, terrible. That's obviously the biggest hole on the team is with the departure of Auclair, the Bucs are going to need to go all out, trade up, and get Kyle Pitts. That's the only thing to do at this point.
Yeah. Kyle says, please tell me you guys agree the Bucs shouldn't draft a running back. I got running backs on the mind. A quarterback in the first 2 rounds. Well, I'll touch on this a little bit, but we'll touch on this a lot with Trevor tomorrow. So be sure to tune in for that. And we're actually, for the episode with Trevor, we are talking about strictly offensive prospects. We will have somebody else on either later this week, next week, some point before the draft. We will have somebody else on to talk about some defensive prospects for the Bucs. But
if he texts me back,
if we get a response, if you're watching this and you have an unread message from Rhett Matthew, you know who you are and respond to it. So we'll definitely have somebody on, but tomorrow we are talking strictly offensive, and quarterbacks are one of the things we're going to talk about. So I personally don't believe they should. We'll get Trevor's thoughts on it. We'll also get Trevor's thoughts on a few individual players that maybe, like a Kyle Trask, a Kellen Mond, a Davis Mills, some guys like that. We'll get his thoughts on those guys too. So stay tuned for that.
I think something that factors into the way that I feel about that, and a lot of people should probably feel this way, is that the Bucs already have a commitment from Tom Brady to play 2 more seasons.
That's huge.
2 more seasons. The commitment to play all the way through is the biggest thing that you obviously take away from that. If it was one season and the other was kind of up in the air, that's one thing. But when you get a commitment from Tom like that, I think just 2 years ahead is a little too early to be looking at something like that. And it's an interesting case because you've never had a quarterback who's pushing 44 years old coming off of a Super Bowl. You know, a quarterback at 44, typically you're past drafting his replacement. So it is a little bit of a waiting game. But I think when you get that commitment from Brady, the way that, you know, he's talked about wanting to stick around and keep playing this game, it's just a little bit too soon. And
It's the same. Go ahead.
I just don't think it's the move this year. I don't think the Bucs should be looking at any quarterbacks in the draft.
It's
I mean,
the same reason.
Them, but you know,
yeah, you can look. I can look at pictures all I want. Yeah. So I mean, it's the same reason that they're not going to draft a cornerback very early, because Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamel Dean are both here for 2 more seasons at least.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have a year. You have more than a year. You have an extra year. So
maybe not the successor to Brady, but let's talk about something that people have brought up in the chat. And I know we haven't talked about a whole lot here on the show, but the backup quarterback position. The Bucs have yet to re-sign Blaine Gabbert or Ryan Griffin. There's a couple of names floating around out there. After the Panthers made a move for Sam Darnold, it looks like Teddy Bridgewater is going to be on the move. He has a, backup quarterback market, but I'm sure that he's going to want to sign with someone who is going to, be interested in making him a potential starter there. What does that market look like for the Bucs? Or are there any moves that could be made, or do you ultimately think Blaine Gabbert, Ryan Griffin just kind of end up back on this team?
I think it's gonna be Blaine Gabbert and Ryan Griffin, honestly. But
yeah,
Bridgewater, is. Everybody says, Teddy isn't really Arians' type of quarterback. We're going to go through this again.
We talked about Teddy to Tampa Bay before they even signed Brady.
Because the Bucs had a legitimate interest in Teddy Bridgewater. Like, it was real. I still am under the impression that it was either Brady or Winston for the Bucs, but they, early on, they liked what they saw from Teddy Bridgewater. And if Teddy Bridgewater were to be released, maybe they do make that call. But Teddy Bridgewater isn't going to come cheap for a backup either.
Right.
So he's going to be one of the most highly regarded backups that you can find. And he's all, like you said, he's going to want to go to a place where he can start, or at least have a chance to start.
I've got him forecasted. I mean, I think any team that has like an starting quarterback position is a real option for him, but I think he either ends up in Denver or like New York.
Yeah,
either one of the New York teams at this rate.
I could see Denver. Yeah, I could see Denver. So, I mean, yeah, I just, I can't rule it completely. I can rule a trade out because they're not going to trade for him. I don't really think they're going to give any assets for him, even though if it trade, the Panthers would have to eat the money. But they're not going to give up an asset for him. But, if he's released, who knows, because I know that Arians does like him, and Arians does believe that he can fit the offense. I'll tell you that right now. I know there's a lot of people saying, oh, he's not. He can't fit he can. Arians believes he can. But also that wouldn't be, yet again, that's not the answer after Tom Brady. Teddy Bridgewater's not 25, he's 28. He's like, it's not like he's some young gun.
Yeah.
So let's move on. This is another thing.
Go ahead.
Okay, good. Go ahead. I think we're talking about the same thing. I think
maybe, I don't know. But our buddy Kevin had actually brought up something in the chat a little earlier, and he said, I think there's a real possibility the Bucs look to take a wide receiver in the draft, and they do it pretty early. Let's talk about that situation, because I think with the pick at 32, we've talked a lot about how the Bucs have tons of room to just have fun with this pick. There isn't a huge glaring need on this team currently, and any pick you make at 32 is going to have implications on the future of that position as well, not even so much what it looks like right now. So I think we're all in agreement here that more than likely Chris Godwin is not going to be a Buccaneer in 2022. They're not going to want to pay Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, wide receiver 1, money. And if Chris Godwin has a great season, which I think he will, he's going to go out, he's going to earn his money, and he's going to make close to $20 million a year on a big contract somewhere. So drafting a wide receiver with pick number 32 doesn't really seem all that bad. It goes without saying, you can look at any position you want to, what that free agency is going to look like next season and where the Bucs are going to want to fill in that blank. They could do it with pick 32, but as far as wide receiver goes, who do you think are some of the guys they could fill that spot with?
Yeah, not going to give an exact answer to that because
we're gonna do it tomorrow.
everybody in this chat is going to love tomorrow's episode because we're gonna cover that. We are gonna cover the wide receivers and why it's not so crazy and why if the card comes through and it says Elijah Moore or Kadarius Toney or Rashad Bateman, any of those guys, why if it says that, why they shouldn't be shocked. Trade up for Kadarius Toney. Well, I mean, I wouldn't trade up for a wide receiver, but Kadarius Toney is a Chris Godwin type receiver. They're very
he's a little
different.
undersized.
Yeah, he's undersized. He's more of a speedster. So I think a lot of people in the chat are gonna like the conversation tomorrow, but it wouldn't shock me. We'll get into it more, and we'll even get into more specific players tomorrow, and we'll ask Trevor his opinions on those, his opinion on the fit. Cody's in the chat. What's up, Cody?
Hey, my man, Cody. He just started his own Bucks podcast. It's I think it's called like Buck Your Feelings. I don't think he has any episodes out yet. I don't know if it's gonna be a video pod or an audio only thing, but keep an eye out for that. Cody's my good buddy, and he does some good work.
So, breaking news for the podcast. It has been like a half hour, and I saw it earlier.
Yeah,
but then I saw it the second time. We finally have a question about Antonio Brown.
Oh wow! It took this long?
Yeah, I know. I know. So, thoughts on AB? I think this is the same person that asked us what our prediction was for AB.
That's our guy, Kyle.
I still think Kyle with a C, man. That's my guy. I'd never seen that. It's very unique. I like it.
I only know Kyle with a C because one, it's Kyle with a C, but also he is a huge Brady mark on Twitter, and we've been talking all season long. He's a big fan of Brady, and we've talked all season just about anything and everything that's happening with this team. So he's a cool guy.
So I still think Antonio Brown ends up coming back, but and then BA, I guess that's Bruce Arians, so lockdown defensive back. So I guess that's coming. I don't understand why does everybody still feel the need to people expect to have like a prime Darrelle Revis. Like I don't understand. Like people expect to have Deion Sanders back there. That's not the NFL today. There's like true lockdown corners. There's maybe like 2 of them in the NFL. Like it's a passing league now. It is like, I'm sorry, but the Bucs are going to give up more yards through the air than they are through the run. Like they are. Yeah. That's just how the league is built. You see all these teams passing, all these quarterbacks passing for so many passing yards and stuff. That's just how it is. I mean, I just think Carlton Davis is a very good cornerback. Is he a lockdown corner? No, but is he a cornerback 1 on this team that just won a Super Bowl and shut down 3 straight elite offenses? Yes. I mean, I do think that Carlton Davis is a good corner. It's just he's not a lockdown, and just there's a lot of people out there. I've seen it not just from Bruce Arians here, but I've seen it from. I mean, I guess if Bruce Arians is telling us, we should prep for it, right? But
all right.
I've seen it from a lot of people that said, "Oh, they need that shutdown guy." Do they? Because they just won a Super Bowl without a shutdown guy. So, do they actually need a shutdown guy? I don't see the need for you to go out and try and get a guy like a Jalen Ramsey. I'm not saying Jalen Ramsey specifically, but to try and go out and get that shutdown top 3, top 4 corner, like you don't need it.
Right.
I think AB needs to realize the big market is not there for him. Needs to come back. I think he does. I don't think it's a problem there. I just think he wants some wide receiver 3 money, man. He doesn't want to sign for $2 million again with no guarantees. Like he wants, $5 to $8 million, I would guess, with some guarantees. That's all it is.
Yeah. Now, taking a look at some other positions, it's funny that we were talking about the wide receivers. I guess I just need to get this off of my chest. We were talking about it before we went live, but we're talking about where the Bucs can fill in some holes, what'll happen with potential free agent wide receivers, maybe taking a wide receiver at 32 in the draft. The guy had a great career, but are we not both just so fucking happy that Julian Edelman officially announced his retirement so we don't have to hear Edelman to Tampa for the next 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. before we went live, it was like 20 minutes before we went live that Edelman announced his retirement, which good for him. Like I said, great career, 3 Super Bowls, but anywhere and everywhere, it was just, Edelman to Tampa. What, for him to come here and ride the bench? Like, I'm just so glad that ship has sailed. So thank you, Julian, for retiring and saving me that headache.
The Edelman to Tampa thing lasted 40 minutes or so.
Oh my God! It lasted a whole year. It felt like, but yeah.
Oh yeah, but it was never truly realistic,
right? Until the Pats released him.
Yeah, but I mean, when the Patriots released him, I figured he was going to sign somewhere, and I was like, oh boy, I don't think it's going to be Tampa, but he'll probably sign after the draft, and that's all you're going to hear. And Antonio Brown's not signed yet, so you can't rule Edelman out. And so thank God, finally you can rule Edelman out. But like I said, we were joking before the show. I said, yeah, just wait until week 7 when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are a little banged up, and Julian Edelman goes, oh, you know what, my body's feeling pretty good. I think I'm going to give this a little run.
Feel all right.
Yeah.
See, Ben gets it. He said he was already sick of them, even though they were happening for half an hour.
Yeah. Carlton Davis, good enough to be in the lockdown area. Only bad outing error calls against the Chiefs during the season. Exactly. That's the only truly bad game he had. Sure, he had some bad plays. If you look around the league, every corner does. Like I said, the NFL with the rules and stuff do not make it easy on their cornerbacks anymore. It's tough.
I remember for a while our biggest gripe about Carlton Davis, it seemed like that first season and a half,
very handsy.
Well, he was very handsy, but he was handsy and couldn't get any turnovers. The guy didn't have any picks for 2 seasons?
I think his first pick came in his 3rd season. It
was against the Falcons. It was that game that
no
touchdown.
This was his 3rd season, so it was his second season.
Yeah.
But it was he'd get all these opportunities, and he has stones for hands.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, he's definitely turned it on. He had his best season without a doubt this year. Take out the Chiefs game. Rest of it's still a pretty good resume,
and he's had 4 picks this year. So
yeah, there you go, man. There you go.
Let's see. If AB left, Elijah Moore would be awesome, but I want to see Tyler Johnson develop more. I think you would definitely see Tyler Johnson develop more. You have to think about this. If they're drafting a wide receiver, it's long term. It is. It's long term. So you have in 2022, let's say they draft Elijah Moore. In 2022, your wide receivers, your top 3 are Mike Evans, Elijah Moore, and Tyler Johnson. That's what it would be. Yeah. Everybody said, "Oh, Tyler Johnson." The Bucs are still going to be running 3 wide receiver sets most of the time. It's a really good point here from Vortex. You don't need a lockdown corner as long as you have 3 quality guys, which we do. That's true.
And I wanted to bring that up before we kind of shifted from that. You look at the development of this secondary. I mean, beginning of the season, NFL.com had him ranked last place. That was obviously pretty wrong, but 2019, they came out of the gate. We really thought coverage was going to be the biggest issue on this defense all season long, and right around the halfway point is when everybody kind of stepped up, started feeling a little bit more comfortable in that defense, and this secondary was shutting people down. So that unit as a whole has really, really improved. You've just got, like Vortex said, you've got multiple great players back there, it seems like. And when everybody does their job, you don't have to rely so much on your cornerback one. It wasn't like Carlton Davis was out there snatching those interceptions during the playoffs. It was Sean Murphy-Bunting. And who expected that from him before the playoffs started, Yeah,
I mean, exactly. Sean Murphy-Bunting was really the only corner I would say really struggled at a consistent basis during the season. So TV12 Goatman says, I really don't know why y'all against Edelman coming to Tampa. Wait a minute. Did y'all watch football?
Listen, I've got nothing but love for TB12 Goatman. He's in all of our live streams. I see him all the time checking out some Buccaneer content. He is a great consumer, but it's just so funny to me that a guy whose name is Tom Brady 12 Goatman is really upset that we didn't want Julian Edelman.
Watch football last 10 years. Him and Tom do work, and 10 years. That was 10 years ago.
Listen, the fact of the matter is that he has some bum knees.
Yeah, he's literally guaranteed to not play a full 16 games.
Right, and that's tough, man. He is one hell of a competitor, and that's something that everybody can talk about over the course of his career. Bill Belichick had great things to say about him after his official retirement announcement, but you just, at this stage in the game, like we talked about earlier, when you are a championship contending team, even if it is Tom Brady's best friend, You don't really want the guy who is trending downwards. And with the stacked wide receiver room that the Buccaneers have, I just don't think there was a place for Julian Edelman here. With all due respect to the guy, I thought he had a great career, thought he was a good player, thought him and Tom Brady are, the best of friends, but I just don't think there's any room for him in Tampa.
His last really good year was 2018.
Right.
That was the last year, and that was the year they won the Super Bowl. That was the last Super Bowl they won. So,
thank you, Willie, by the way.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Willie. Appreciate it. So we have 90 people, 101. It just jumped up. Okay.
There we go. Thank you guys so much for checking us out.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. But yeah, if you guys are here and first time joining or something, jump in the chat. Let us know you're here. We love interacting with you guys. Let us know, if you have a question or something, just let us know. Super chats, whatever they are, it doesn't matter. 17 games this season, I know.
Yeah, he wasn't even slated to play a 16-game season. How is he?
So he ain't playing 17. That's pretty good. So here's one reason why I don't love that. This is going to be very random. Davis Mills, the quarterback from Stanford. The dude's a bust. Dude's a complete bust. For one reason and one reason only. If he comes to Tampa, even if he comes to Tampa, I'm going to say they're going to be looking for a quarterback because Frank G super chat bidding wars. not tonight. So and nobody's going to top Willie. I mean, Willie really put it out there.
Willie came in, laid the hammer down, and that's all he had to do.
Yeah.
He came in, wrecked everyone, and left.
Yeah, nobody else is getting here. He's the Roman Reigns of this chat. So, if anybody watched WrestleMania last night, let us know in the chat.
It was a good time, by the way.
We'll
do a little Mania segment, I guess, for 30 seconds. But for a 2-night event, I wasn't expecting it to be as fun as it was, and I wasn't expecting the Bad Bunny match to be nearly as good as it was either.
I like the 2-night thing because it's like WrestleMania used to be 6 hours. Used to end at 12:30 sometimes.
Right,
oh my God. Let me get to bed. And it was good though. And Bad Bunny, apparently he's been training for months for this. So I was like, oh, cool. I like when celebrities, they take it seriously and they can actually do stuff in the ring.
It's just all about who has that. I think it comes down to the respect for the business. You know what I mean? Respecting
exactly
how things are done. And he was an outsider, came in, killed it at WrestleMania, and now he's going to go on tour next year. So good for him.
Exactly. So I do want to say one thing before we move on to why I think Davis Mills is a bust, for a very simple reason. The staging and theming and Ray J was amazing. It did look awesome.
That stage was huge.
I would guess that was the same design they were going to roll with last year. I'm just going to guess that they didn't come up with a whole brand new design. So I'm going to guess that was basically the same design. So Rhett, you didn't love the outcome of the main event last night, huh?
No.
The tribal chief, man, the head of the table.
Acknowledge him. The finish to the match was a little weird. It just I don't know. Everything kind of slowed down for a little bit, and a chair shot to the head didn't really feel like it did it justice.
And I didn't think it was going to be over. I thought somebody was going to kick out, or something was going to happen, or when that happened and Roman Reigns was standing in the middle of the ring, I said, okay, is Brock coming out now? Why was it so it seems so abrupt to me? Yeah. But whatever. Back to football.
I promise this is the most wrestling talk you'll get on the podcast all season. Listen, it's WrestleMania. It's the off season. It's the granddaddy of them all. You got to at least talk about it a little bit, right?
Right. And I regularly watch wrestling. Rhett watches wrestling every now and then. He used to watch it more, but so let me say Davis Mills will be a bust. Whether he's a Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback or not, he's going to be a bust for one simple reason. The dude wears full sleeves. the dude, if you look at it, he looks like Sam Bradford. No.
So is this the Colin Cowherd backwards hat thing? Any quarterback who wears full sleeves cannot be a franchise guy.
They suck. Name me one quarterback that was good that wore full sleeves.
Tom Brady.
What? No, Tom Brady. Tom Brady hasn't rolled up like that.
No,
I'm talking the sleeve is down,
you meant for the jersey. I'm thinking full long sleeves. He wore black long sleeves against Washington.
No, yeah. The sleeve is down. Literally. What? I think Peyton Manning might be the only quarterback. Peyton Manning, I think, is the only quarterback that's ever been good wearing long sleeves. Okay, Bucs need a backup quarterback. Edelman's a fail. I like that idea.
There we go. Yeah, QB3.
Hey,
Edelman.
he what do you play? He played quarterback in like high school, whatever,
Yeah,
right?
I
That's
think
what
he
they
played
say every
quarterback. I
time
think he played a little bit in college too. I think he was a college QB.
Because every time the Patriots were on a flea flicker,
Yeah,
that's what they all brought up. Emily says, "Hi guys, I hope we don't start the season sluggish and start taking names from the get go. My breakout player for this coming season is Vaughn. Keep killing it, guys. Well, thank you, Emily. I appreciate it.
Much.
That's always the Super Bowl hangover thing is always kind of a fear, but the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and then they proceeded to go 14-2, which was better than their previous year's record, and they went to the Super Bowl.
Would have probably ended up 15-1 if they didn't rest their starters last week of the season.
Like they would have beaten the Chargers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's good teams are just good teams, and sometimes it affects teams. Yeah, for sure. But I do think that, especially with a guy like Tom Brady, who's won Super Bowls and then gone right back to the playoffs too. So I don't think he's our
buddy Ben Leeper with a great point in the chat. He says, do you guys think we could see Rosen cut by the 49ers and possibly return to the Bucs?
Boy,
this one is fun to think about. This one is fun to think about because I'm one of those people who pounds the table for Josh Rosen to actually get a fair shot in the NFL. You look at the San Francisco quarterback room. Oh, Frank G coming in with $5. Technically, Cameron Braid is QB2 right now. You're right. Let's just stick with Big Cam at QB2. He'll be our backup when we need him. But Josh Rosen, you look at San Francisco's quarterback room. They've got like 6 guys, right? One push is going to come to shove. And all of those backup quarterbacks they have are not going to be on the roster come week 1. So I think Josh Rosen has the least experience out of everybody on that quarterback room, right?
So you're telling me Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer? Tom Brady's going to take him under the wing again?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a New England Patriot again.
That's what I read. Maybe. I don't know. That's a weird way to spell Mac Jones, even though they might be going to San Francisco. Peyton Manning, Eli Manning stinks. I'm telling you that right now. Eli Manning's not good. This boy got lucky against Tom Brady 2 times in the playoffs, and you think he's one of the best quarterbacks like ever? Like, do
you think
he should have been
a Hall of Famer?
He should have been sacked, and then the dude makes a lucky catch. The wide receiver made that play. The wide receiver made that play. All right. And then the other thing was, a good throw, but then a lucky catch by Mario Manningham or whatever his name was in the second one. Whatever, bro. Yeah, like he's not even in the league no more. Like, come on, bro. They won with Brandon Jacobs as their running back. Like, come on. Hey, okay, man. Kevin.
Hey, Kevin reeling you in, buddy.
I know. Hey, Kevin, quack, yeah.
Hey, if you guys are listening to the replay on our audio outlets, firstly, I just want to say thank you for making it this far. But if it seems a little chaotic, if it's hard to follow, that is the beauty of doing these live shows, because the live chat is basically the show within the show, and it's our favorite way to interact with you guys. So make sure you check us out on YouTube if you haven't already. But if you are listening, we do appreciate you either way. If you're checking us out on YouTube and you haven't, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of great Buccaneers content. We're going to be doing some draft content tomorrow with Trevor Sikkema of the Draft Network. And, of course, we got all the hype videos that we release every now and again. Those do pretty well. The Tom Brady one up over 12,000 views. So thank you guys so much for all of that. So I
can tell we're getting late in the chat because people start asking, is running back off the board? This is actually the thing we open with. I don't think running back is completely off the board the first round. But I think they would consider Travis Etienne, but I think they would pass on him probably. I don't think they would pass on Najee Harris, though. I think he's the one guy. Somebody said Butterfinger Welker. Yeah, in that Super Bowl. And
oh, man.
Yeah, whatever. Like, oh, man, whatever. I don't think Rosen would mess it up, but the talent on our offense. The issue with Rosen is so Scott Reynolds, I think, sort of said this, that Rosen just isn't the best leader type guy. Like, he's just not he's not the guy that walks into the room and sort of commands it. And I'm not saying every quarterback has to do that, but like for a Bruce Arians quarterback, like he likes that stuff. So if you had to pick between Bowles or Leftwich as the most logical and likely coach to take over for Arians, who would y'all pick, or another? That's actually a very good question. We haven't actually got this question. We got it a lot after the 7-9 year. But we didn't really get it after this year because like you were focused on a Super Bowl.
Right.
I would say probably the most likely one, probably Leftwich, because I think what's going to happen is Bowles is going to get a head coaching opportunity before Leftwich is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a real opportunity. There's a real opportunity. There's a real possibility. I mean, that both guys could get head coaching jobs next year at the same time. In which case, I believe the Bucs would get 2 third-round picks because they're black assistant coaches. So if they get promoted, you would get a third-round pick. So the Bucs could have a lot of some 3 third-round picks next year, depending on what happens. But Peyton Manning wore full sleeves. Yeah, he did. I acknowledge Peyton. I said he is the only good quarterback that has ever wore full sleeves. Name me another one. You can't. Now, all the other ones was this 1970. No.
Like
Get out.
Joe Namath out here.
Yeah. After 1995, name me a good quarterback that has consistently won that wore full sleeves. You
Drew
can't.
Bledsoe, duh.
No. Drew Bledsoe got replaced by a 6th-round pick.
Oh man.
So how good is he really?
What did that 6th-round pick go on to do?
Not much.
Yeah.
He's a bum.
I don't know. I bet you he's
you know
nowadays, huh?
you know why he was good, because he didn't wear full sleeves. Bowles, man, no brainer. Bowles is sure. Bowles is, if you had your choice, you would pick Bowles. But I'm saying because I think other head coaching opportunities would come to Bowles before Leftwich.
Yeah.
Like if Bruce Arians isn't ready to retire, the Bucs aren't going to fire Bruce Arians to hire Todd Bowles. Let's see. Why do you think Bowles stayed? Because nobody offered him a job. That's why he had
vocal about how it kind of surprised him. I know Byron Leftwich had a couple of interviews during the playoffs that we covered.
No, it wasn't Leftwich. Bowles had the interviews. Leftwich actually didn't even have any interviews on.
Okay, well, forgive me then, but I mean, when you're a great defensive-minded coach, like it seems like Bowles is,
and you've been a head coach before.
Exactly. You've got that, you've got that experience on your resume. Teams are going to gravitate towards that. And I know that the landscape of the NFL is shifting more towards these, younger, great playmakers, great offenses, Sean McVay kind of guys, but there is nothing that can be underestimated about a guy like Todd Bowles, given what he can do to any NFL defense, like we've seen him do in Tampa Bay. So he's going to be,
right,
one of those guys who pops up on the radar a little bit sooner than other head coach positions.
Right. So it said, and this is another question from Ben. Who was the understudy? I'll get to that.
David's got a great question.
I know what you're talking about, and I will address it. Who is the understudy to Leftwich who would step into the role? I assume you mean offensive coordinator. So let's say if Leftwich were to leave or to be head coach, then I'm actually going to bring up a name that I think could. Oh, Jesus! Look who's in the chat now.
Better late than never, I guess.
Yeah, start bidding. Let's go. I lost my train of thought now.
That's what James does to people. He shows up and you forget what you're talking about.
I know.
Mr. Bucks Nation in the chat. What's up, buddy?
I think it could be Harold Goodwin. I think, and he'd be maybe a consideration for head coaching too. Jason Light interviewed Harold Goodwin the same year that he hired Dirk Cutter. So Jason Light has obviously had some interest in Goodwin. So let's move on to David here though. He said Rhett and Evans should do a king of the wing, but instead of wings, an entire turkey. So what are we splitting this turkey in half? Or are we getting 2 whole turkeys?
Well, like that, and that's the thing that I didn't get. What's easy about doing chicken wings is that the what's the word I'm looking for? It's a lot easier to score. Like if you're splitting a bird down the middle.
Right.
How much of the bird do you have to eat? Do you have to eat the burnt, crusty undercut of the bird? Are you dividing white meat and dark meat? Like, are there different categories? What's the criteria, right? With a chicken wing, you can just throw it down, show the bone to the camera, and call it a day. And I think that's why, also the name is better. Like, what King of the Bird? That doesn't rhyme.
Yeah. I mean, maybe James can do that. Your boy just woke up from a fat nap. Yeah, whatever.
Hey,
wow.
Willie Beeman.
I mean,
good evening to the Bucks.
James, what do you mean nap? You slept until noon.
Bucks content creator of the year.
You slept until noon, so I don't understand what you need a nap for. Let's see. bidding wars. Now, do you think they pay Bowles head coach money to stay on as defensive coordinator? They could. I mean, I know obviously they did with Mike Smith. It obviously didn't work out, but I don't know. I think a guy would rather just have the opportunity to be in control of that again rather than more money. How they did the Chiefs, it was impressive, the game plan. Oh, it definitely was. But guess the Bucs saw that, but guess who else saw that? Every NFL owner. So I feel like if let's say like, you know, and I think the new thing that a lot of people want the NFL to put in is you can't hire a head coach after the Super Bowl. If that was the case, Todd Bowles wouldn't be here right now because he'd be him and Byron Leftwich would probably be gone. This is a good question. How would you replace Todd Bowles? I don't know. That's the one thing that's offensive coordinator. I think it's easy because I think it's Harold Goodwin. Defensive coordinator, I think you'd be looking at an outside hire maybe. If Todd Bowles becomes a head coach, I don't really think a defensive coordinator matters because he'd likely be calling the plays, the defensive plays at least. But let's say it's Byron Leftwich, you know, as the head coach with Todd Bowles, you know, is already left. I don't know. That's where you can maybe look for an outside hire. So,
now, I know you brought up the idea of an outside hire, but is there anybody on that defensive staff that you think could really fill the shoes as defensive coordinator? I
mean, Larry Foote maybe in a few years. Casey Rogers maybe, but I think Larry Foote would be the guy probably. Yeah. I feel like the turkey could be more interesting just because of size. It could be a great way to showcase who's the better eater. Dog, we had trouble with those chicken wings. I'll tell you that right now. I'm gonna tell you right now that the turkey would not be any better. It would be probably worse. Like I ate 7 wings in 7 minutes or something, and I didn't eat it after we did that. Rhett hung out at my place for a little bit longer, right? Like a few more hours. I didn't eat a single thing the rest of that day. I was completely stuffed.
It's funny too because the thing about turkey is that one, we would have to make
you gotta cut it or something.
I don't know if they sell fully cooked, ready to eat turkeys at your local Publix.
Just have James make it.
Well, the thing is that if you prep it wrong, you know, the 18-hour cooking time that they usually have, if you prep it wrong and it's a little too dry, it's going to be unbearable going down. Right. If you get a dry bite, it could really slow things down. Could cause an injury. We could have somebody choke to death live on the air due to a dry bite of turkey. That's why I think the Publix wings are the way to go.
I think Evan would actually throw up if he tried to eat a turkey quickly. You're correct. That would happen. That's exactly what would happen. Yeah. It can be a Thanksgiving special. I mean, it's a good idea for a Thanksgiving special, but maybe we can just do a Thanksgiving special where we're eating our Thanksgiving meals in peace and not racing. How's
look
that?
At Mr. Bucks Nation, our Publix employee chiming in, correcting me here. Yes, Rhett, they do serve fully cooked turkeys.
Oh, so you actually do observe stuff at your job, huh, James? Rather than just go around and just mess around all day. Every time we play on your walkie-talkies.
Every time we FaceTime James and he's working,
he's always at work. He's doing nothing.
Yeah,
he's not doing anything.
What are they paying this guy for?
I don't
He's got his AirPods in, talking on the phone.
Yeah, he's showing us to his bosses. What's going on here? What is he doing? What are they paying him for? I asked him, I said, don't you have customers in the store? No, they all left. Well,
yeah, probably because nobody was helping him out.
Bro. Yeah, he's James on the phone. Oh my God, did they look at this one dude with a mop in his hand talking to some random people on the phone? And those old people or whatever, they don't understand that there's a microphone and the earbuds. So they look at him talking to somebody, think he's talking to himself.
Exactly.
And they're like, I'm staying away from that aisle.
Yeah, no, you're right. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to wrap things up just yet, but we're going to take a couple of more questions. If you have them in the live chat, make sure you leave them for us.
Now.
What's up?
It's getting entertaining now.
Oh, I know, man. James just got here. He's got everybody riled up. We're going to take a couple of questions in the live chat before we start to wrap things up, but I do want to say thank you to everybody.
You'll probably fall asleep with the target. That's true, too.
Here we go from John DeRiley. He says, I've grown to appreciate Donovan Smith, but is he our perennial tackle for the Bucks, aka 10 plus years? I think 10 plus years might be wishful thinking because he is pretty close to 30. But sorry, John. But what do you think about Donovan Smith and maybe his longevity? Because we talked about after his contract extension is up, he could possibly be in a situation where he's in his early 30s. He's going to want to go out and make a lot of money as a premier NFL left tackle if he continues to play the way that he did during the playoffs. So what do you think about Donovan Smith and the future of him at left tackle for the Bucs? Do we have to worry about looking at more left tackles once free agency rolls around for him?
Well, 10
This is where the live chat comes in handy, guys. Like I said, if you're listening on our audio outlets, we do appreciate you, but the chat makes the show on nights like these.
They don't even know what we're laughing at. If you're listening to the audio thing, you have no idea. So next 10 plus years is tricky for me because like he's already 28 years old. So like it's not going to be 10 plus years, but I mean, he's under contract for 3 more seasons.
Yep.
Right. And he's already been in the league for 6 years or 7 years. So, I mean, let's say he finishes out that contract and then leaves in free agency. He's been your tackle for almost a decade. Like, I think that would technically be, that. I don't think people realize like Donovan Smith is actually a little bit older than people think. Who'd rather have an Edelman, AB or Edelman for the minimum?
Oh, come on. AB all day, man.
So this is David's bringing up a good one. I need Rhett and Evan to debate. Is a hot dog a sandwich? We had talked about this. I don't remember what episode, but I think I tweeted out a picture of like an encyclopedia of sandwiches because if I remember correctly, you said it was, and I was like, it's not.
I don't remember my take. I really don't.
On the encyclopedia of sandwiches, if you just look that up, the hot dog is not on there. So it's not a sandwich. It's not. It's a hot dog. A hot dog's a hot dog.
So let me ask you a question. If you take a hot dog bun and you fill it up with ham, cheese, make an Italian, right? Is that a sandwich on a hot dog bun? If it's presented with sandwich meats,
sure,
a little bit of lettuce,
it's presented with sandwich meats,
vinaigrette.
Not a hot dog. Not a hot dog, though.
Okay.
That's why.
So if you put a hot dog between 2 pieces of bread, it's still not a sandwich. Like 2 hamburger buns with a hot dog in the middle is not a sandwich.
The bread has nothing to do. It's the hot dog itself that makes it a hot dog.
I don't know. I don't feel like arguing with you.
Cannon Fire Podcast.
James actually dies? ? Here's a good question from
the thumbnail. The thumbnail is just like us looking all worried and stuff, and him just standing there laying on the ground.
Somebody's doing the YouTube O face on all the thumbnails. Are you? Yeah, exactly. You're touching your face. Yeah, you get it. Joel comes in with a good question. Do you guys think do you think the NFL will make the Bucs at Pats primetime next season? Without a doubt, I really think they do.
Yeah, they might. If it's not primetime, it'll be like one of those nationally televised games, sort of like
like 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
America's game of the week.
Yeah, pretty much. It'll be for the country to see. What if you make meatballs out of hot dogs and make them meatball sub? You're getting too technical with it now.
Well, if you're making meatballs out of hot dogs, I don't think they're hot dogs anymore.
Yeah,
I think it's just hot dog meat.
How you doing that? I want to know, because if you cut up the hot dog.
Listen, if you make meatballs out of hot dog meat, I'm calling the cops.
Yeah, John. What? I don't know what you're talking. I gotta come over to your house for a barbecue, man. I don't. I wouldn't mind looking at Bama inside linebacker Dylan Moses. He could be groomed behind Levante David. What do you guys think? Moses was actually a guy who was last year. If you talk to people, you would have thought he was a 1st round pick or like a 2nd round pick, and now he's really dropped. Really dropped its really his stock has really dropped, and I don't know, maybe I think it'd be a 3rd round, maybe 4th round thing, but maybe because I think if you look at it, he still has potential. So and he wouldn't have to play right away again. So maybe
David brings the hard hitting questions tonight. He says, "Listen, this is a fantastic podcast, but it lacks personal connection. So, Rhett and Evan, how old is the most expired item in your fridge?" You know what? I'll go ahead and leave this one off because we recently had a run-in with the most expired item in our fridge. I was downstairs cleaning out the fridge. We were getting ready to leave for fumigation. Our apartment got fumigated a couple weeks ago, so we had to vacate the premises for a couple days. So we're packing our stuff, we're cleaning out the food, and I find a jug of chocolate milk. Not just any chocolate milk, like a half-gallon chocolate milk. And I can see it. It's got like tiger stripes in it from the back of the fridge. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. So I picked it up and I twisted it, and I saw some stuff move and some of it didn't. It looked like a big, thick, like peanut butter chocolate milkshake deal, like a Blizzard you'd get. And I checked it. This was a couple weeks ago, so this was still the month of April.
It still is the month of April. So
it expired. It expired in January. Like January 11th, 2021 was when it expired. So it had probably been in our fridge since before Christmas. That is the oldest thing that I think we've had in this fridge since I moved in this apartment.
Let's see. So I actually just cleaned out my fridge recently. I think I had, forget what it was, but something was it was either like a yogurt or something. And it was,
any of the dairy stuff is just awful.
It was like late 2019 or something. And it, like, I didn't even open it. I just threw it right away.
Hey, the apartment that we've had, obviously we do a little bit better of a job because we haven't lived here as long term. But at my mom's house, before I moved out, dude, I found a jar of olives that expired in like 2017. This was last year, so they were over 3 years old. It was pretty goddamn disgusting.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that is a dangerous game, James, to take a nap after 5. And like I said, but the dude, that's why he sleeps until noon every day, I guess, because
he'll take a nap and then he'll wake up at 1 a.m. and say, "Oh,
exactly." Well, Richard asked, "What if you put Spam in a hot dog bun?" Spam is basically the Asian hot dog. If it's basically something, then it's not. So it's not a hot dog. So that's not.
Look at Evan deconstructing it.
Who's eating a Spam sandwich, bro? Who's eating that? No, nobody I know.
Who's got the better mustache, Evan or Giovani Bernard? Not gonna lie, Evan seems like a good pick here.
Let's go.
That offensive lineman, what's his name? John Molchon? John Molkin?
Yeah, Mr. Bugs Nation had him on the show.
Yes, he did. He would like a word with both of you guys about the mustache competition down here in Tampa Bay.
Get out of here, Molkin.
Listen, we got one more question we'll take before we wrap things up because people are getting out of here. They don't want to hear us talk about Spam and hot dog sandwiches anymore. Hot dog meatball subs, I think, is where a lot of people drew the line.
Legit had a sauce in my fridge from 2015. God. Jesus, James.
That's disgusting, James. TB12 Goatman will be our final question of the stream.
That's disgusting.
Do you see any other veteran players coming to Tampa for some D-line help? I know we talked about Clay Matthews. I know it's not D-line help, but if he's not retired at this point, maybe an extra edge rusher?
Yeah, not Clay Matthews, though.
No, that ship has sailed.
No, he hasn't played football in over a year.
Exactly. I think it all goes without saying that he's probably retired.
But
what do you think?
He's like one of those guys that like officially retired.
Because I don't. Steve McClendon is coming back.
No, I don't. I think he's gonna end up retiring probably.
Yeah,
he walked out with her. He's like 34. Done. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but what do you think? Are there any other NFL vets that you think could bolster up the middle of that defensive line? Because it doesn't seem like they're going to do it in the draft.
No, I think they might do it in the later rounds.
Yeah.
I think that's their plans. Yeah. There's a thing about Kyle Trask here. We will talk specifically about Kyle Trask tomorrow when we have the Draft Network's Trevor Sikkema on to preview the offensive side of the football for the Bucs. Trevor just recently put out a mock draft. It was very interesting, so we'll talk about that. David, next podcast we should go live with James at Publix. If he gets fired, quality content. What do you think? Well, I'm flying down for that. If that's if anytime I get to see James get fired is a must opportunity. So, remember he was telling us a story about that guy on the walkie-talkie.
Oh yeah,
he got mad at. So James is kind of a douche at Publix. You don't want to run. YouTube Mr. Bucks Nation is way different from Publix Mr. Bucks Nation. So you run into him, don't say hi because he ain't gonna be too nice to you.
Mr. 10K subs,
Yeah, he's too cool for school now. Whatever. I mean, he introduced me to the one guy, and to his one coworker, and he said to his coworker, "Are you going to subscribe to their channel?" And his coworker goes, "I'm not even subscribed to your channel." So I was like, that's nice.
That proves what his coworkers must think of him, huh?
Yeah. One last thing. Ryan Kerrigan would be a possibility on edge. I think there's a good chance we draft a guy that. Yeah, I think on the edge, as far as edge goes, I don't see them signing a veteran for that. I think they're gonna the first 2 or 3 rounds. I think you're gonna see an edge, and I actually think in the draft as a whole, you'll see probably maybe 2 edge rushers drafted or so. I think you might see more than 1. So
we got a flurry of thumbs down. By the way, I'm probably because those people came in and we were talking about hot dog sandwiches.
I know.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for checking out this episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Everybody hanging out live with us, we appreciate your support. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Like Evan had mentioned a little earlier, we're going to be live once again
tomorrow night. What are you talking
about?
You sound like a moron. Evan likes them toes. What are you talking about? I'm gonna have to FaceTime after this because I don't know what he's talking about.
Vortex, he's spreading lies now. Willie Beeman, our guy Kevin had to check out a little bit early, but we still appreciate him holding it down as the moderator. Ben Leeper, David Cardona with the hard-hitting questions, Airship Flyer. I think I already mentioned Vortex, our guy Joel, Austin. Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Tune in tomorrow. We will be going live with Trevor. However, we will be looking at the chat somewhat, but it won't be as interactive as tonight. That's why it was actually nice tonight. We were able to sort of sit back and have a more laid back show. But if you guys have any questions for Trevor, be sure to put them in that chat tomorrow. It'll be a fun time. Should be around 7:00 or so. We'll be going live with Trevor Sycamore. So we're excited for it.
Check out the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are the best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram.
He sneaks in a 99 center.
Right at the end. I guess we have to talk about him. Thanks for the dollar towards the Wendy Fund, James. Your support is greatly appreciated.
Gabby's gonna kill you. Just saying.
Dude, quit giving us money, James. He just wants me to go. He just wants me to buy him a burger once I feel better.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out the show. Follow Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram. You can also follow him on Twitter at EvanNFL. And last but not least, you can find myself on Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. We'll be live with Trevor Sycamore from the Draft Network talking, quarterbacks being drafted by Tampa Bay maybe. Ooh. And, of course, everything else that we had mentioned here on the show. I'm your host, Rhett, signing off from my co-host, Evan. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, as always, go Bucs.